Welcome back to my channel, Link Light here with another episode of Shiny Cardboard Chronicles. And as you can see from the title, we cover shiny cardboard, but not just shiny cardboard, because everybody loves shiny cardboard. But we also cover the artist that makes that incredible shiny cardboard. We cover the PSA 10 pop counts, and we cover the prices of those cards. Because nowadays, it is all about the prices, right guys? On today's episode, we are going to continue the next 8 hollows in the first Pokemon set ever base set. There's 8 more to go, so let's get started, guys. Next on the list, we have Magneton, the first ever Magneton Pokemon Hollow. In a PSA 10 first edition, remember we do first edition first. First edition PSA 10 pop is only 64. And the regular hollow PSA 10 pop is 184. The artist that was credited with doing this artwork goes by the name of Keiji Kinubachi. Again, that is Keiji Kinubachi. And as I stated in the last video, we're not going to really be covering the prices for these cards because for most people watching this, they're out of our reach. So it's really no point to cover the artwork, the prices. But if you have that type of money, no problem going to PSA 10 pop or seeing the last sale if these prices are in your budget. Next on our list is the first ever Mewtwo. And this was illustrated by none other than, again, if you've seen the first episode, you're going to see this name a lot. Sugimori, again, who made the first ever Mewtwo hollow, was illustrated by Sugimori. In a PSA 10 first edition, there is only 82, so less than 100 PSA 10s in a first edition. In regular hollow PSA 10, there is currently 569. That is almost 5 times more than the first edition part of this card. Thank you, Sugimori, for being such a great part of Pokemon and giving us the first ever hollow Mewtwo. Next on our list, we have this Nidoking. And again, this was illustrated by Sugimori. Again, this was illustrated by Sugimori. In a PSA 10 first edition, the pop is 91. And a regular hollow PSA 10, the pop is 358. So as you can tell, first edition to regular, the reason why first edition cards are so expensive, you can definitely see that there is a very low PSA 10 pop count because they're first edition. They're very limited in print. So again, take a look at this beautiful card right here, the first ever Nidoking Hollow. Next up, we have this Ninetales, and this is honestly probably my favorite hollow from the base set, besides obviously Charizard and Blastoise, because I'm really more of a Squirtle fan, so I love Blastoise. But who doesn't love Charizard? But this Ninetales artwork definitely gives me very nostalgic vibes. It was one of those chase cards. I believe I pulled it in a regular hollow and not in the first edition. Who was credited with giving us this artwork was none other than Sugimori himself. In that PSA 10, the pop of the first edition is only 66. There's only 66 PSA 10s of this card in first edition. And on the other hand, PSA 10s of the regular hollow, there is 455. Still a very low number, but compared to the first editions, that is definitely, again, almost a 5 times increase compared to the first edition PSA 10 pops. Next up, we have this Poliwrath, and I believe this is the least expensive. If we were covering prices, I believe this is the least expensive first edition PSA 10s out there. And I don't know if you know, if you've ever read the original Pokemon story, Poliwhirl was actually Ash's, or they called him Red, his first Pokemon in the game. Not Pikachu, it was Poliwhirl that turned to eventually Poliwrath. In the first edition PSA 10, there is only 100 of these cards. Again, only 100. On the flip side, in a PSA 10 pop of the regular hollow, there is 538. Again, as you can see, it's kind of a pattern. There's usually a 4 to 5 times greater of the hollows in regular hollows compared to the PSA 10s in first edition. Next up, we have this Raichu here. And again, this was illustrated by Sugimori himself, the first ever Raichu hollow. I mean, it makes sense. Pokemon's all about Pikachu. In the first set, they were definitely going to have a holographic Raichu. In a first edition PSA 10, there is only 88 in a PSA 10 first edition. In regular hollows, in a PSA 10, there is 248. So I'm not sure why this one is so low. Maybe because the grading, or it was a harder card to grade. We'll learn about that more in other videos. But again, it's only 248 PSA 10s in a regular hollow. Next up, the last of the starters, Venusaur. And this was illustrated by Arita. Finally, an Arita card. If you watched the last video, he illustrated quite a few of those hollows in the last video. In that PSA 10 first edition, there was 144. And again, if we were covering prices, it would make sense that this Venusaur, out of the Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur, the Venusaur is the lowest of those pricing because it is the third place of the favorite original starter, so it kind of makes sense. In regular hollows, PSA 10, there is currently 569. Again, that is 569 of this Venusaur in a regular hollow, PSA 10. And rounding out number 16 of the first hollows of Pokemon is the Zapdos. Such an iconic artwork. People really love Zapdos. I believe it's the favorite for most people compared to Moltres and Articuno. Articuno is my favorite because I like water type Pokemon and it's the ice, but you know, everybody has their favorite. In the PSA 10 first edition, there is currently 134 of this card in a PSA 10 first edition. In a regular hollow, there is 651. It kind of goes to show you how much people love their Zapdos cards. So, and again, I don't think I said it, but this was illustrated by, again, who do you think, Arita or Sugimori? If you guessed Sugimori, you are definitely correct. Well, there you have it. 16 pieces of shiny cardboard from the first ever Pokemon set, base set. I hope you really enjoyed this informational knowledge that I gave to you all today. I hope that you can continue to join us on the shiny cardboard journey as we go through each set week by week. Don't forget to like and subscribe.